Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz, and this is Ron's Rundown. We're going to go over the MLB games scheduled for Monday, April 17th, 2023. Now, if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comment section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at the Premium Picks tab at Pickdawgz.com. Alrighty, let's get into it. Here are the games in Major League Baseball for Monday. First up, it's the Los Angeles Angels taking on the Boston Red Sox. Shohei Ohtani and Brayan Bello are your starters in this one. Now, Shohei Ohtani's off to a great start this season. He's 2-0 with a .47 ERA on the mound, but he has had some control issues. We saw him walk 5 batters in his last game, had some issues with the walks and hit by pitches in the previous game against the Mariners. And now you're going up against the Red Sox with Brayan Bello on the mound, a starter that I really like going into this season, even though he was injured to start the year. He's a starter that in 57 innings at the Major Leagues last year had a 4.71 ERA, but a below 3 FIP because he keeps the ball on the ground. He only gave a .2 home runs per 9 in those 57 innings. He can miss some bats and earn some strikeouts. He pitched well in his rehab start in the minor leagues, and I think getting plus money here with the Red Sox at home, I think there's some value there. So I'm going to take the plus money here with the Red Sox on the money line. Next up, we see the Cleveland Guardians taking on the Detroit Tigers. Hunter Gaddis and Eduardo Rodriguez are your starters in this one. Now, bear with me, my voice is going out a little bit here on Sunday recording these videos. But, Hunter Gaddis, he's a guy that's really tough to back in this spot because the Guardians are in a tough travel spot going from D.C. to Detroit. The Tigers play much better on their home field. We saw him play competitive against the Giants this weekend. And, although the Tigers' offense is really tough to trust, consistency-wise, not a very good lineup, we saw him put up some runs on the board this weekend against San Francisco. And Hunter Gaddis, like I said, struggling. His last start, giving up 8 earned runs and a home run in only 3 innings of work. He gave up 4 earned runs in his first start of the season against the Mariners. I think if there was a spot in this series, the Tigers would get on the board early and go on to win the game. This would be the one. So give me the Detroit Tigers here on the money line. Next up, we see the San Francisco Giants taking on the Miami Marlins. We're going to see Jesus Luzardo and Alex Wood on the mound in this one. This is a really tough spot to be in for the Giants, as although Alex Wood's pitched well so far, you got a Giants team going from Detroit to Miami. While Miami, the Marlins did to stay at home after their series against the Diamondbacks. You've got, facing a lefty and Jesus Luzardo. The Giants right now are dead last in baseball in team OPS and second worst in baseball in isolated power against those southpaws. And they also own the third highest strikeout rate at 30.9% as a team going into Sunday's game against lefties. So, it's really tough to back when Jesus Luzardo is 2-0, 1.93 ERA, 20 strikeouts in 18 2/3 innings with only 1 home run allowed. And the Marlins last year really struggled against lefties, but they made some additions in the offseason to help bolster that lineup against those lefties. So this is a majority right-handed batting lineup. Guys like Soler, Garcia's back, after being injured. Cooper's off to a great start. Although you got Luis Arias and Jazz Chisholm, the left-handed hitters, at the top of the lineup, there's still a lot of good righty bats in this Marlins lineup that can get to a lefty. And Alex Wood, like I said, off to a good start, but I don't think he's going to get enough run support. I think the offense is going to be in trouble, especially being a little bit fatigued from that tough road trip from Detroit to Miami. So give me the Miami Marlins. This is a really good matchup for him. I'll take him on the money line. Next up, we see the Tampa Bay Rays taking on the Cincinnati Reds. No starter listed for the Rays right now. We should see Hunter Green going for the Reds, so there is no line for this game right now. I'm going to be guessing that the Rays are going to be favorites here. And right now, I'd be leaning towards the Reds plus 1.5 runs and sprinkle a little bit on the money line as well. Hunter Green struggled at Great American. There's no doubt about that. He's given up the long ball in bunches at Great American at times, but he's also a guy that can earn a lot of strikeouts, which is important when you're pitching at a hitter-friendly ballpark. The Rays are in a tough spot travel-wise, going from Toronto to Cincinnati. We know the Reds gave up a ton of runs early in that game against the Phillies on Sunday, so their bullpen was used a little bit more than they would want. But I still think Tampa Bay, their bullpen was off to a great start this year, but I'm a little bit concerned with the fact that their advanced analytics and their xFIP numbers and Sierra numbers for that bullpen are a little bit high, and their BABIP is also unsustainably low. In fact, going into Sunday's games, that Tampa Bay Rays bullpen, which, like I said, it's off to a good start ERA-wise, is the lowest BABIP in baseball at 213. So it's tough to get behind a team like that might be going with a bullpen game here at a hitter-friendly ballpark. I think the Rays pitching staff struggles in this game, so I think it's going to be anybody's game, and I'm going to take the plus money, what we're probably going to be getting with the Reds in a spot like this. So right now, just passing on the game, I lean towards the Reds on the run line / money line. Next up, it's the Phillies and the White Sox. We're going to see Lance Lynn and Zach Wheeler on the mound in this one. Tough game for me, but I'm leaning towards the plus money with the White Sox. Certainly a game I'm not rushing to bet, but for me, the question I have and the hesitation I have with the White Sox is, what Lance Lynn are we going to get in this one? I mean, he pitched so well in his first start of the year against the Astros, and then he struggled so mightily in his next start against the Giants, giving up 8 earned runs and 3 homers. And then he pitched well again against the Twins, getting 10 strikeouts in 6 innings with 3 earned runs. A quality start there against Minnesota. His offense has not been able to back him up. The bullpen has certainly not been able to back him up either. So, it's tough to get there with Chicago, but this is also a tough spot to be in for the Phillies, going from Great American to Chicago. Zach Wheeler's also had some inconsistencies in his games. The ERA is still above 4 to start the year. So, sure, he pitched well at the beginning of his start against the Marlins last time out, but had some control issues and command issues towards the end of that game. His bullpen didn't back him up. The offense didn't back him up. So, both of these pitchers combined in terms of the win-loss record for these two teams on the money line, 1-5 going into this game. So, I do think the plus money is valuable here with the White Sox, even though they're not off to a start that they wanted and they have some injury concerns in the lineup. I'm going to take the plus money here with the Chicago White Sox on the money line. Next up, we see the Texas Rangers taking on the Kansas City Royals. No official starter for the Rangers right now. I am seeing Jacob deGrom listed for Texas on ESPN, so we know that would make a big difference for the moneyline price in this game. But we should see Jordan Lyles going for Kansas City, and that's where I really have a concern in this game for the Royals pitching staff. As we know, the Royals are already off to a really bad start to their home schedule. They've lost a lot of home games at Kauffman, and their pitching staff has struggled. But Jordan Lyles is not the type of starting pitcher that I would want to back when he's facing the same lineup twice in as many starts. I mean, he pitched against the Rangers back on April 11th, and sure, the same thing goes for Jacob deGrom, but we know Jacob deGrom is a different beast. He's one of the best pitchers, if not the best pitcher in Major League Baseball. So Jordan Lyles, he went 6 1/3, giving up 8 base hits, 4 earned runs. He only had 4 strikeouts in that loss to Texas the first time around. Now you're facing the same lineup twice. I really worry about him in this game. I think the Rangers will get to him, whether it's deGrom or not. I like the Rangers to grab the win. So give me the Texas Rangers on the money line / run line. Next up, it's the Arizona Diamondbacks taking on the St. Louis Cardinals. Merrill Kelly and Jack Flaherty are your starters. I got to give credit to Jack Flaherty. I was really concerned about his start against the Colorado Rockies at Coors Field going into that game because Flaherty was struggling mightily with his control. He was walking a ton of batters. He had 13 walks in his first 10 innings of work, and now you're going into Coors Field. It just looked like it was a recipe for disaster, but he pitched really well in that game. He went 5 1/3 innings with only 1 earned run allowed. That's a really good number to have at Coors Field. He had 6 strikeouts and only 1 walk allowed in that game. So now you're facing a starter in Merrill Kelly and the Diamondbacks, who the Diamondbacks have to go from Miami to St. Louis, and Merrill Kelly's had also big control issues. He's walked 4 batters in each of his first 3 starts. And, the strikeouts have been there for the most part, but you're facing a Cardinals lineup that doesn't really strike out much to begin with. So, Merrill Kelly's had a lot of tough matchups. He faced the Dodgers twice to start the year, then the Brewers, now the Cardinals. I don't really like this spot for Merrill Kelly. I do think the Cardinals will get to him. So I'm going to take the St. Louis Cardinals. I like what I'm seeing from Flaherty. He's really improving his game. So give me the Cardinals laying the run line. Next up, it's the Toronto Blue Jays taking on the Houston Astros. No official starter for the Blue Jays right now. I am seeing Kevin Gausman on ESPN, but Christian Javier should be going for the Astros. Just a slight lean to the under in this game. Really not my favorite game on the board. There's a couple of tough games on the board for Monday, and not a lot of information, at least the night before. But Christian Javier pitched a lot better at home last year than he did on the road. We saw him struggle in his last start. That was a game on the road against the Pittsburgh Pirates, where he gave up those 2 home runs and 4 earned runs. But he still has good strikeout stuff for the most part. I do think he'll be able to limit the long ball in a game like this. A tough travel spot for the Blue Jays, who played at home on Sunday. And like I said, last year he pitched better at home. 75 2/3 innings at home with 96 strikeouts, a 154 opponent's batting average, and a 2.26 ERA. And when you see his first 2 starts at home this season, pretty sharp numbers. His first start against the White Sox, 5 innings, 3 earned runs, 6 strikeouts. You can live with it. Then 6 innings, 1 earned run, 5 strikeouts against the Tigers. You'll take that. I think we see a low-scoring game here. I think Gausman's also pitched really well. The Astros have struggled against right-handed pitching to start the year, and I think we're going to see a low-scoring one. So give me the under in Blue Jays Astros. Next up, we see the Pittsburgh Pirates taking on the Colorado Rockies. And unlike that last game where I like the under, I like the over in this game between Rich Hill and Kyle Freeland. I don't like Rich Hill in a Coors Field game, that's for sure. I don't really like him in a PNC Park game either, and he has struggled to start 2023. His last start was arguably, definitely his best start of the season against the Astros, but he went 6 innings without a strikeout, still gave up a home run, still gave up 2 walks. So sure, he only gave up 2 earned runs in the end, but the Pirates still lost that game 7-0 anyway. And in his first 2 outings, he was really struggling at Coors Field against the Rockies team that we know plays much better offensively at home and hits lefties pretty well at home. I think Rich Hill's in trouble. But Kyle Freeland on the other side, I do think is going to give up some runs here. We know Kyle Freeland a lot better on the road than at Coors Field. He's off to a good start this year, and he's pitched well so far at Coors Field. But in his last game at Coors, he still gave up 2 home runs in that one, 6 base hits to go with it, and 2 walks. The Pirates are making some sharp contact this year, and I like their lineup against a lefty. So give me the over in Pirates-Rockies. In our next game, we see the Chicago Cubs taking on the Oakland Athletics. Hayden Wesneski and Kyle Muller are your starters. I think Hayden Wesneski is a lot better than what we saw in his last start against the Mariners. That was a really tough spot to be in because the wind was blowing out, I think, above 15 miles per hour at Wrigley. We know when the weather gets like that, usually we see some high-scoring games, and that was a 14-9 final score. But I do like the under in this game at a very pitcher-friendly ballpark against Oakland A's lineup that's not trustworthy at all. I think Wesneski bounces back and has a really good outing here. Last year, he was really good in his limited work at the major league level. He's a guy that can miss some bats. He keeps the ball on the ground for the most part. I think he puts together a good start. Kyle Muller's not my favorite starting pitcher to back, at least in an under, but I think he's one of the better arms in this Oakland A's rotation. Coming off his worst start so far against the Orioles, but his first 2 against the Guardians and Angels were actually pretty strong outings. He went 10 2/3 innings combined, giving up only 3 earned runs with 8 strikeouts in those 2 games. And so far, he's only given up 1 home run in 14 2/3. So I'm going to take the under here in this Cubs Athletics game. Next up, it's the Milwaukee Brewers taking on the Seattle Mariners. Corbin Burnes is projected for Milwaukee. No official starter for the Mariners right now, so there's no official line. But I am seeing Chris Flexen listed on ESPN. The Milwaukee Brewers lineup on paper going into this season, I thought was in worse shape than it was last year. But this team's been competitive. We've seen them play well on the road, obviously playing well at home. And the good news for Milwaukee is your starter and your ace in Corbin Burnes, who was really struggling in spring and was not sharp in his first 2 outings of the regular season. He bounced back in a big way in his last game against the Diamondbacks. A tough lineup there in Arizona. He went 8 innings, only 3 base hits, no earned runs, no home runs, and no walks. And he had 8 strikeouts, so he was missing the bats. His control was there. He was not giving up sharp contact. That's exactly what you want to see and what you really need to see from your ace in a game like that. Now you're going to a very pitcher-friendly ballpark and against the Mariners here at T-Mobile Park. I think Corbin Burnes can put together another strong outing in this one. Chris Flexen, if he is the starter for Seattle, I don't really like his chances, and we've seen him struggle. Now, the last game, I'll give him a little bit of a break here because he pitched that same game against Hayden Wesneski in the Wrigley Field where the wind was blowing out crazy. Gave up 8 earned runs and 2 home runs. But even still, he's had issues with the long ball, doesn't really earn a lot of strikeouts. I think he struggles in this game, so give me the Milwaukee Brewers on the money line. Next up, we see the Atlanta Braves taking on the San Diego Padres. No official starter for the Braves right now. We should see Ryan Weathers going for San Diego. Tough game for me to handicap, not a lot of information out there. I'd lean towards the Braves right now. If Weathers is the guy that goes in this game, I do think he could struggle. I am seeing Spencer Strider listed on a few websites for Atlanta, so that would definitely give them a big advantage in this pitching matchup. Ryan Weathers, although he's got a 2.7 ERA so far this year, his strikeout numbers aren't the best. We know he's had control issues at times. He's facing a Braves lineup that crushes lefties, so I just don't really like him in a spot like this. The Braves are a really tough team to beat right now, so I'm going to take the Braves here. Even though it's a really tough travel spot, that would be one of the hesitations I have going from Kansas City to San Diego. I'm still going to take the Braves here on a lean on the money line. And for the final game for Monday's card in Major League Baseball, it's the New York Mets and the Los Angeles Dodgers. David Peterson and Dustin May are your projected starters in this one. To me, this is a lopsided pitching matchup and a matchup between the Mets and Dodgers that's been pretty lopsided in the last few years or so. The Dodgers have basically just dominated the New York Mets, and this is a tough spot to be in. Obviously, the Mets are still on the West Coast trip. They've struggled in this West Coast trip at times. David Peterson being a lefty, the Dodgers have hit lefties very well. He's not really a lefty I trust often as well. He has issues with his control, gives up a good amount of base hits, and although he's been able to miss some bats this year, his strikeout numbers are certainly better this year than in years prior. He's facing a Dodgers team that doesn't really strike out too much, more so against lefties than righties, but I think the Dodgers still can get to David Peterson for a few runs and maybe even more than a few early on. And then Dustin May on the other side, although his last start wasn't his best, he still only gave up 2 earned runs in 5 1/3 innings. Really, the walks were a problem in that game, but for the most part, 12 strikeouts and 18 1/3. I want to see those strikeout numbers rise, but he's keeping the ball on the ground. He's got a really good sinker, so he's more of a pitch-to-contact guy this year than he was in years prior. And when you have a good sinking pitch that can get those ground ball double plays, you can rely on those pitches more. But I'm going to take the Los Angeles Dodgers here. I just think they continue to roll against the New York Mets. And that's it. Those are the games for Monday in baseball. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pick Dawgz Premium. As always, this is Ron Romanelli. Good luck.